The subject I was going to talk about is how to be an animist, really, and how to be an animism at home. And I suppose I should start really by saying where my home is. And I'm currently at Schumacher College, which is about 5 miles away from where I was born and where I grew up. So in rural Devon in the southwest of England, a very beautiful part of the country. And I grew up outside a small village, able to play in fields and woodlands and streams. So very, very privileged upbringing. And throughout my childhood, and especially into my teens, I had experiences that I would now call nature mystical type experiences, profound experiences of connection with the non-human, with the other than human. And I suppose somewhere my academic career has been about trying to make sense of those experiences and try and give a name to them and to understand them. And one of the lenses or one of the names through which I have understood them is this term animism, which I'm sure by this stage of the course you're very familiar with. So I won't dwell on it for too long, but I will give you the definition that I use, which is that animism is the view that sees the world as full of people or persons, only some of whom are human, but all of whom are worthy of respect. So I'll say that again. Animism is the view that sees the world as full of people or persons, only some of whom are human, but all of whom are worthy of respect. So the human person is actually a subcategory of this wider category of personhood, which doesn't belong exclusively to humans. So if you accept that, the question then is, how can we be respectful? What is the way to be respectful to the non-human? And I would say that for most of us living in the West, by which I mean modern cultures influenced largely by global capitalism and industrialization and urbanization, this respectful relationship is something we have to learn or refine or remember. My contention, my case is that it's not something that is only found in indigenous contexts. It's something that is found in European contexts as well, and not very far away. So I want to suggest to you that there are three ways in which we can be respectful to the non-human, to the other than human persons with whom we share the world. And the first is simply to give the non-human our attention. And this is very simple, but very profound, because we live in a modern world where attention is at a premium. They talk, do they not, about the attention economy, where our attention is constantly being pulled by social media, by notifications that pop up on our screens, by the fractured attention that we now have because of modern communication. So what happens when we turn away from these very human worlds and give our attention to the world? Well, the metaphor I like to use is that of listening. And I would do that, wouldn't I, because I'm a musician. But I think it's a better metaphor than that of looking. Looking is problematic. Animals, birds, they know when they're being looked at by humans and they don't like it. You can be watching a bird flying overhead, and when it notices that you're looking at it, it will change course. However, birds tend not to notice when you're listening to them. Listening is a way of engaging with the world that doesn't seem to intrude upon it in quite the same way. And so we can learn to turn our attention to the world. And one of the first ways we can do that is to name or learn the names of the other than human people with whom we share the world. Plants, animals, birds. Birds are good because birds are everywhere. I was in Bristol. For those who aren't in Britain, it's a city in the west of England. And I was staying in a hotel right in the middle of the city, about as urban as you can get. No green spaces. Just outside the hotel were three birch trees. And as I left the hotel in the morning, I could hear a goldfinch singing. A goldfinch is just a little beautiful little songbird. So even in the heart of the city, in the heart of the urban jungle, there are birds. So we can turn our attention to the birds. We can find out their names. We can learn to identify their songs so that we can go, yeah, there's a blackbird singing. In fact, I know there's a blackbird just doing its evening song just over there as I speak. It doesn't have to be birds, but birds are good because they're everywhere. It could be plants. During lockdown, an activist group in London were going round the so-called weeds growing up through the pavement in London and drawing a little circle around them in chalk and writing all their names, their Latin names and their common names. So suddenly a weed becomes a person with a name and a livelihood. And in this way, the world becomes richer to us. Here I'm thinking also of the founder of deep ecology, Arne Næss, a Norwegian philosopher, who almost as a throwaway comment in one of his early papers where he's formulating deep ecology way back in the early 70s, he says field ecologists are the kind of people that we need to be emulating here. They have the kind of knowledge of the world that we need. And the reason being that they have this kind of deep knowledge of the world. They know the names of the other than human people, the duck that's just flown overhead there, the birds that are singing, the plants that are growing, the fungi that grow in the autumn, and so on and so forth. So I think this is a profound gift we can give to the non-human. We can give our attention and learn who are the people who live with us, wherever we are, whether that's in rural Devon or the Amazon or the middle of London or New York or Delhi or wherever it is. So that's one thing. A second is to give offerings. And I think giving our attention is a kind of offering. But this is a very, very common thing that people do in traditional cultures, is they make offerings, they give things to the world. I think, again, it's a very sort of Western preoccupation to want something. We want non-ordinary experiences when we go out into the wild. We want to have some kind of profound connection. But what happens when we stop wanting and we just go and we give back to the world? We can give offerings. And those offerings can be anything. They can be little gifts of food or drink. We can feed the birds, put out food for the birds and the animals. Tobacco is a traditional offering from Turtle Island, but it's spread around the world. My friends and colleagues in South Africa tell me that tobacco is a traditional offering in indigenous Southern Africa. Tobacco I struggle with because we have a problematic relationship with this amazing plant. I don't really like giving my money to these tobacco firms and their history of slavery and what have you, but we can grow tobacco. You can grow tobacco very easily. That's something we can give. Another offering that people give in Britain is oats, oats being one of the oldest grains that we use. It doesn't really matter what it is, provided that it's biodegradable, it isn't going to be offensive to someone coming along after you, and is a gift to the world. It could be a song, it could be music. It's this sense of giving back. And of course, in traditional cultures, this is just an absolutely normal part of life, that if you take something from the world, you have to give it back. It's obvious, but something I think we have to relearn in the West. And then the third suggestion I want to make is that we might want to do ritual. And I'm going to speak very much about the English here. Here in England, I think we're profoundly bad at doing ritual. I think because of the long shadow of Protestant Christianity. Not that I'm sagging off Protestant Christianity, but I mean, I was raised a Protestant in the Church of England. And my memory of church services was that they were long, very tedious, and not very much happened. And you say to people now, we're going to do a ritual, and immediately the throat tightens and the buttocks clench and people start speaking in a particular way. Ritual doesn't have to be like that. So, for example, let me give you one example. We've just had Easter, which ostensibly is a Christian festival. I'm not a Christian anymore. No, I was raised Christian, but we do Easter customs. And one of the things we do with the kids is we get some eggs and we dye them beautifully with onion skins and cabbage leaves and decorate them with leaves and flowers. Beautiful. They look beautiful. And we go and leave 3 in the garden for the gods. There's a little ritual that we've made that we do. It's simple. It doesn't require clenched buttocks or seriousness or anything like that. You can simply go and give something. And we do that every year. And then once you start doing a ritual, once you find your rituals and you do them again and again and again, they start to build up a resonance with each other. It's like the memory of these rituals start to infuse each other. So each time you go and say, give eggs out onto the garden, you remember the times you've done it before. You remember what the weather was like before, and you remember how you felt the time before. And it's almost though you step out of ordinary time into a kind of ritual time. So you can devise your own little rituals. Might be that, for example, on the 1st of May, you get up and you watch the sun come up, or on the summer solstice, you stay up all night to watch the sunrise. It doesn't matter what it is, but it involves an act of giving. We give our sleep, we give our energy, we give our time, we give our attention. Again, it's this aspect of giving back to the world. And then in Britain, we're blessed with a whole suite of traditional folk customs. So it's common to think that we've lost anything remotely to do with our indigeneity here in Britain. And to a certain extent, that is true, because there have been a number of occasions in which that connection we had to land and place has been seriously disrupted. I'm thinking about the Roman invasion. I'm thinking about the Reformation. I'm thinking about the Industrial Revolution. And maybe even now with the digital revolution as well. All these things have taken us away from the land, and yet still we have traditional folk customs. So, for example, I'm going to give one example. In a couple of weeks' time, it'll be May the 1st, the ancient celebration of Beltane, the celebration of spring. And all over the country in Britain, there will be these processions known as Jack in the Green processions. Jack in the Green is a puppet. It's a human-sized puppet. It's made of wickerwork, a cone, which is human-sized. Someone will get inside this puppet, and the cone of wickerwork is festooned with greenery. So people will be up the day before, decorating it with greenery, crowning it with flowers, and sometimes giving it a foliate mask with leaves spewing it from its mouth. And Jack in the Green processions happen all over the country, and the Jack is processed through the town or the village, wherever it happens to be, throughout the whole day, accompanied by music, by festivities, often accompanied by green attendants called bogies or whifflers who go around daubing people with green paint. Yeah, drums, music, traditional tunes. Now, the historians have studied the origins of the Jack in the Green procession. And for a long time, it was thought that these were survivals of pre-Christian pagan religions. In fact, it turns out not to be the case. The Jack in the Green has a very short history. It's a Victorian invention of chimney sweeps, because that cone, that wickerwork cone, was originally hauled up chimneys to clean chimneys. And the chimney sweeps used to process the Jack in the Green through the streets to raise a little bit of money in the spring when their work was drying up. However, the Jack in the Green persists, and it's a tradition that is amenable to an animist reinvention. Because what could be more amazing than someone embodying the spirit of vegetation, the spirit of the returning greenery that's happening all around me as I speak? The trees are coming into leaf, the plants are growing, the flowers are coming out. What could be more amazing than someone dancing that spirit through the streets for a day? So we can reinvent traditions. We can look to what we have. And in my case, it's folk traditions that are old. They've been here for some time. And traditions change. Their meanings change. They're not fixed. They can be reinvented. They can be made afresh. They can be made anew. I've rattled through those, and I'm aware it's been a long 2 hours for you, so I wanted to keep it brief. But there's just 3 ways in which we can express our kinship with the world. One is to give our attention to the world, to learn who it is that we share the world with, to try and understand their needs, what they like doing, where they like to grow, where they like to roost if they're birds, what they like to eat, what their songs are, what their habits are. Another is to give offerings, to give something back, to always be thinking how we can return something to the world. And then the third way is through performance, through ritual. A famous paper written, I think, in the 1970s or 80s by Ron Grimes and It's performance is currency in the deep world's gift economy. That's the title of the paper. Performance is currency in the deep world's gift economy. Performance is one of the ways in which we give back. We stay up all night, we give our sleep, we give our comfort, we dance through the streets all day carrying this puppet embodying the spirit of the greenery. We dance through a village in Staffordshire carrying antlers in the Abbots Bromley horn dance. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. So I'm giving you very particular parochial examples of what I can do here, but my invitation would be for you to, wherever you are, apply these. I have no idea what the customs and traditions are where you are. I don't know what's available to you, but you can do some research, you can dig, and you can make up your own festivals and your own customs. But just keep doing them. Do them and do them and do them and do them, and then they gain a kind of power.
Find out more on advire.life.